My name's Alexander Steele, and I'm here for the Recording Arts degree program. The person I chose to interview was Marc Pinsky. He's the course director of interactive audio in the Recording Arts program.
From a standpoint as being a sound designer and a musician, there's this, if you want to call it, there's this misunderstood concept that everybody thinks that just because you're a musician or that you play with sound, that visuals have nothing to do with it. And the answer is you can't separate one without the other. Think about it this way. Music says what you typically can't say with words, just as where someone takes a photograph because there's not enough words to say what they're trying to say, but they can easily convey a feeling. So what role does it play? Well, simply just being able to communicate. Just communicate ideas, communicate feelings, emotions. It doesn't matter if it is sound or if it's just purely visuals. My job is a storyteller, and I'm just going to go ahead and communicate that. If you go ahead and look at it, with every single site out there like Flickr, and I'll even reference SoundCloud because it can translate as well. For every site like Twitter, Flickr, SoundCloud, anything else, everybody's creating stuff now. That's what we do. Everybody creates. As I've been very oftentimes have said that media creation now is an unholy trinity. It's no longer a production and consumption. It's production, consumption, and sharing. Man, there are so many of these. In many ways, you almost have to kind of take a look at it. It's the concept of parody. Take a look at the class about classic album covers that have been produced, and how many different variations of those classic albums, as far as the artwork, are people then drawing and saying, hey, we want to make ours look something like this. I mean, perfect examples of that. Look at every single version that someone has ever done of Pink Floyd's Dark Side of the Moon.
I was about to say, it's definitely one of the biggest motifs out there.
Yeah, I mean, and granted, the example I'm going to use here is totally designed as a parody, but Richard Cheese, okay? Richard Cheese did a compilation where instead of featuring the prism with the light going through it, it's a martini glass. And it's the same concept, which is certain album images and artwork are just so ingrained in us that we know exactly what they're supposed to be. So if you come up with a slight version of that, it still continues on in that collective, unconscious, if you want to call it. My all-time favorite would happen to be Mark Rothko. There's something about Rothko that just really resonates with me. He was able to take just a few very simple colors and make these just incredibly emotive and evocative images just out of squares and blocks of color, which just kind of makes you, it creates this minimalist atmosphere, which is the same thing, it's the visual equivalent of ambient music.
Yeah.
It's just simple, it's unobtrusive, but when you look at it, it actually commands your attention. I cannot help but be inspired and influenced by what I see. And that goes just as a sound designer, even a sound designer and a musician. I can look right outside the window right here, just at the trees, and sometimes just seeing an image of a tree totally gives me, an idea of a piece that I want to write and how I want it to blossom and, develop and things like that. And I find that when I get really horrible writer's block, what I'll do is I'll just go ahead and look at some of my art books. I'll just look at the paintings and the images in the art books,